Sure, sir. Thank you so much, sir. And I'm really happy, glad, and I would say very, very glad to be a part of this meeting and part of this elite group, particularly Dr. Shekhar sir, yourself, and Mr. Kannan. I think this is a very important initiative along with, India Policy Times, and very happy to be part of this, I would say. And coming to first about myself, sir, I would like to just quickly introduce myself. So, as you've already mentioned, I'm part of Mazars India LLP. I'm leading Mazars India LLP. A large part of our focus is into technology transformation and bringing out innovative things, to the to for our clients. Particularly, we give a lot of focus on the areas that are related to national development. Our core focus has been to see how we contribute to national development of India. And we have done, things which are largely focusing around these areas. Particularly, currently, we are looking into educational space and, some of the other important areas which needs technology transformation at a very desperate level, I would say. Because, on one hand, we are losing so many student hours, where our students going to school, because that is the only way people, and it's not just India, but across the world, people have been mainly used to learning in classroom environment because not so much of technology intervention or technology transformation has happened in the teaching or education area. And there we are, doing a lot of work. But sir, apart from that, about myself, I'm basically from accounting background. I started as a chartered accountant. I was also a qualified company secretary, cost accountant, and then I was in CPA, CISA, and CIA from US. Largely spent my life in accounting and consulting firms. Today, a most important stakeholder for accounting firms like us, because we are no more just accounting firms. We are a lot more business consulting and technology firms. And a lot of time that we basically spend is with the technology people, particularly technology companies, because a lot of them these technology companies, they come up with solutions which may or may not be directly used by the business. And to be honest, technology, I would say the inventions in technology today, whether you call 5G, whether you call IoT, or whether you call artificial intelligence, machine learning, or a robotic process automation, I think they are at its peak of innovation. How do we apply that in business? I think that is where most of the technology companies and other most of the leaders and even companies like ours, I think we are finding our ways and means to see how do we actually apply this in real life. And that is where, sir, majority of the role is there for us to play. And Mazars India LLP, we are an advisory firm, business advisory firm, using a very good amount of focus on technology. In fact, 75% of the things that we do revolve around technology and uses technology. We started this firm about in 2019. Mazars already existed in India as auditing and taxation firm for about 2 decades. But about last year back, we are a center of excellence for areas like DATE, as in we call it as a digital analytics technology ERP, finance transformation and outsourcing, cyber security, forensics, corporate finance, and GRC, that is governance, risks, and compliance. And we have added a new word, which is resilience. So it is GRRC, governance, risk, resilience, and compliances. So that is what is a quick background about me, sir. The session I would like to cover, which is again a very meaningful, pertinent, and important session today, which is around how do we leverage technology, digital, and what are the key financial management strategies. These two things I would like to address, and I have put some 5 parts to my discussion today, starting with where are we on digitalization, what is the state of adoption of technology, how COVID has impacted us, what COVID means for us, and how businesses have adopted overall, and where is the state that we are in today. Second is about, I want to talk a little bit about business case for technology adaptation and technology transformation. Why and what is needed? Is it a big rocket science? Is it something really great, or so very different that so many old business timers, or older generations, they don't understand? Is it something which is really a lot of rocket science, or something very very innovative? And I would like to cover that as a part of that, to say that what is a business case for technology adaptation. The third thing I would like to cover is about technology integration. It's slightly advanced part. When you have so many different technologies, and remember that we are evolving. COVID brought us an important need for us to transform to a very different level of technology adaptation. But yet, these each technologies that we're talking about, some of them are connected to hardware, some of them are connected to software, some of them are connected to even malware, some of them are connected to firmware, and some of them are connected to through the hardware into the devices like IoT. There is a need for integrating these technologies, because you can't allow these technologies to just keep evolving on and on unless you have a common uh, interaction point and an integration point between these technologies. So that is about integration of technologies. Then connected to our topic today, which is on financial management, I want to cover financial prudence, which is the most important part in financial management. COVID has taught us a very important lesson on financial prudence. We've gone back to learning our basic lessons on how do we conserve cash, how do we manage cash, how do we ensure liquidity, how do we ensure that we manage working capital. All of this is around cash and liquidity management. COVID has also taught us the age old principles of leverages. So, financial leverages, operational leverages, I want to talk about that. And these are age old principles and learnings coming from old days of financial management, and how they are relevant and applicable even today. Applying the power of conservatism in business. You may expect ambitiously the most optimistic economic outlook, but you have to prepare for something which is very, very pessimistic, or something which is very, very adverse. Are you really prepared for this adverse scenario? And do you have your financial systems taking care of, the operational and financial leverages and your cash in case you go adverse? To what level of adversity can you take? So that is on financial prudence, is what I would like to cover. And then the last part I would like to cover is that while we're adopting technology, and while we're talking about integration of technologies, we need a concept called digital trust. And when I say digital trust, that means that how much the systems can be trusted. Systems are saying and proclaiming that they are doing certain set of things. They proclaim that it is safe, it is secured, it is doing the required things. The data is kept secured. It is GDPR compliant. It is privacy compliant. A lot of proclamations are there about these systems, but then these systems also need a kind of validation on digital trust. And that concept is going to be very, very important, because you're exposing a lot of your data, exchanging a lot of your data in the digital and virtual world. You're so much dependent on the digital and virtual world that you need a kind of trust mechanisms for your digital systems, because your data is interplaying freely with the external world, with your business partners, with your customers, with your clients, with the external society and the communities. And that brings a concept, and we'll talk about the digital trust. So these are the five major things, sir, we want to talk about today. I will first start to talk about the state of digitalization. And there are some very beautiful lessons that COVID has taught. So some technology transformation projects which would have a timeline of, let's say, a few years, let's say 3 years or 4 years or 5 years to implement as a roadmap. I think some of these are just getting implemented on an immediate basis, because it is coming back to the survival of most businesses. And when you talk about survivals, physical movements are restricted, and therefore people want to make sure that their goods and services are reaching to the end customers. And therefore it is the only way in which the goods and services can reach, apart from physical transmission, it can only reach through digital platforms. And therefore there is an imperative need that has been brought as a result of COVID, where people have crossed the boundaries to say, let us implement most of these things in rather 6 months, in rather 3 months, and let's just do it. Let's just do it. Quickly evaluate and do it. entire enterprise's focus has been to make sure that we implement some of the technology projects. Even people have gone out of the way to make over investments because it's about survival. Do we survive or do we not? And therefore people have taken it up. So that's an imperative. And coming to COVID, which has brought this essential imperative in front of us. I'd like to just cover as a part of that few things which are happening in that. The first thing that is happening is goals rationalization. So it has led and forced people to really see whether the goals that they are chasing are they the right goals to chase. Meaning, it is going back and making people to think about the goals, their basic purpose of existence, and the DNA in which they have to operate. Some important things there is: are we becoming too big to fail? While we are very by becoming big, we may be becoming very impactful, but can we survive being so big? Do we need to be so big? And is there a fair competition that we are allowing the market to play with? So that is the first point. Second point on there on the goals rationalization is, from top line, the focus is shifting to value creation. You may keep chasing. Businesses earlier thought that let's chase top line, don't worry about bottom line, don't worry about impacts. Let's chase the top line. The top line brings with it its own set of financial leverages, and therefore people are really thinking in core terms that let the competition operate. We may not want to be market leaders, but let us go out and create the right set of value. So from top line to value creation, I already said, are we becoming too big to fail? And do we really want to be so big? Can we, today, for example, the enterprises which are big, very big, and you take any example, and I'm not just talking about companies like, let's say, the IT enabled services companies in India, which have gone with very good quarter one of the current year. But I'm talking about any company that you take which is very large in its size. There is a thinking process that is going on. Can we survive? Because there is a possibility of overnight going out of business. You take several examples today. Many companies have filed for bankruptcies, and therefore I think it is making people to sort of stop and think to see whether we are becoming too big to fail and do we need to make some changes. And then the digital and transformation goals, which are again very important for most businesses because people have adopted it. Second very important thing which people are now thinking, as an impact of COVID is, are we taking positions on because in any business there is a concept of value creation by which you gain customers and growth, and there is a bit amount of gambling on positions. You take a business view and you take a gamble. So the more we focus on value creation versus gambling, the more the businesses have a likelihood of surviving in the long run. So that's what most of the businesses are also rethinking about. And I've already spoken about, and I'm going to come to the concept of integration of technologies and digital trust system. The another thing that is coming along is the power of long-term thinking rather than short-term thinking. Most people want to achieve most of the things in 1 or 2 years. I mean, the concept that we earlier had on long-term thinking or a long-term business planning, that is virtually gone, completely gone, because all this while before COVID, we had been only thinking about, okay, what is 2 years plan? What is 3 years plan? If a business is not sustainable for 2 or 3 years, people did not think about it. People said, leave it. Let's focus on immediate priorities. So much of short-term thinking, and I think people have also, come to live with the real importance of thinking long-term. Also, I think what has come along is the power of natural living and quality of human life, because a lot of time has been offered to us, working from home, working remotely. That has offered us a bit of an advantage, I would say, to sort of live and spend quality time on natural living and quality of life. So I think a lot of impacts have a impact on how we are looking and thinking at things, sir. On business case for coming to my next point, which is on business case for technology and the state of adaptation of technologies. I would like to make a point here that, look, while we've been talking about things like artificial intelligence, machine learning, robotics, none of this is really new. None of this is really, none of these things are really rocket science, or none of these things are such that which are major breakthrough inventions. Like, we had, we had a telephone call discovery of a telephone, or a discovery of electricity. I don't think it is that kind of a discovery. The basic thing that is happening is people are now realizing that internet is there with us. We had 4G for all this while. Making use of 4G, most businesses which have been able to adapt to using 4G, let's say talk about e-commerce players like, like, let's say Indian is Flipkart, Walmart, which is now part of Walmart. But let's say Walmart, Flipkart, Walmart, let's say Alibaba, let's say Amazon. What have they done? All that they've done is they've used technology to solve a very basic business problem of availability of goods through electronic channels. It is not something which is, let's say, internet was already there, and they've invented e-commerce, which is around using the concept of internet and 4G. It is taking the goods and services into the market. So some businesses which have been able to use technology and create business models around technology. So let's say Alibaba, or let's say Flipkart, or let's say Amazon. All that they've done is the traditional retail organization, which was focusing on physical shops and physical establishments. It has taken it into electronic, in a virtual environment, and then it said, okay, let me distribute as and when the need comes. So those businesses which have been able to adopt some of these technologies which are available now, these are not something which are like breakthrough technologies that changes the world and the outlook, like electricity, for example. But these are basic internet driven technologies, those which have been able to use it, whether you call artificial intelligence, whether you call Internet of Things, whether you call robotic process automation. Those businesses have been able to take it, take their businesses to the very next level, and able to become very successful. And those businesses which have not used this, they are now forced to use this, to say that, okay, are your processes digitalized? Because people can't go to office, people can't use papers because they can't move papers. There is so much of risk and security issue now, health issues, moving papers around. So can you move things electronically? So they are now forced, to adopt this. And you talk about core industries, whether you talk about, let's say, an oil and gas, petrol manufacturing, cement manufacturing, infrastructure companies. Most of these now are forced to adopt technologies, at least at the corporate office level, to make sure, that they are connected to the customers and trying to bring back the things to normalcy. Most of the other companies like financial services, talk about any financial services companies, they were already on taking and reviewing areas like fintech, blockchain, like some of the other ecosystems. Let's say banks, for example. Banks were already using internet banking, but now I think a very different kind of mechanism has been thrown up in front of them, that how banks can use larger ecosystem of payment gateways, of so many other systems, like let's say land records, or other blockchain records, land registry, blockchain records. And some of these things would be even useful for companies like banks. Apart from internet banking, I think it would mean a lot of adaptation to fintech and blockchain. And again, that, I would say, again, it's not very breakthrough or something which is very adventurous and has changed. But yes, definitely adopting this will change the whole course of operation, because that changes the basic way of doing business, which is now you can do business anytime, anywhere, from any part of the world. And therefore the real mobility is completely brought to a very different kind of a transformation. So, this is about the companies which had already adopted or which had not adopted, and how and what they're looking at in terms of adopting technologies and in terms of changing the things. There are two essential things there. You have to operate in the physical world and the real world. So you have to move the goods in the physical world and the real world. And then you have digital platforms, which is called the virtual world. There may not be need of mobility when it comes to digital world, and a lot of interactions, corporate office interactions, etc., they have become a lot more digitalized. And therefore using these digital interactions, You have to make sure that your physical world is operating without a lot of physical movements. You are able to move goods and services into the physical world and making sure that it is reaching the end customer. And that also brings in a concept of virtual reality and augmented reality, because many a times this digital existence is not a real physical existence. People want to invest in experience. People want to invest. So for example, let's say you talk about media and entertainment companies. um, while they existed in the physical world, they made you to go to theaters and see movies, for example. They made sure that they traveled to different locations in the world and did the shooting, brought it to the market. And again, there was a lot of physical environment while it was already digitalized. But there is a concept of virtual and augmented reality that now some of these companies are making use of to make sure that the customers and the clients, they basically getting into concept of virtuality, they can simulate and have a much better experience of a physical world. So sitting at home, how can you enjoy an experience of a theater? Sitting at home, how can you experience, you can experience an experience of a fine dine restaurant, that you would have gone to for dining, a fine dining restaurant experience sitting at home. And I think a lot of this is coming to using the virtual reality and augmented reality and combining the physical world and the digital and virtual world. How do we optimize and how do we create the best in class experience? And that is what is coming to as a result of this COVID business imperative.